Hey everybody, welcome to the stream tonight. Got a little bit of um, so Angular TinyConf is a week from today. Um, I'm in the process of writing my talk, but it would be good to include like code examples in my talk, and it would also be good to potentially provide a repository where people could go, be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, or dude, that's silly. Let's provide um, PRs against it to kind of help flesh out the idea. So that's kind of where we are. And you know what? Let's transition over so you guys can see me. Today I did do a little bit of just allowing you guys to see in the background what's going on, because I was setting up like NX and Angular and stuff like that, and we're still in that process. It can take a little while to get a project set up, and so that's what we're doing right now. Is we're just so I've installed NX, I installed Tailwind also. The next thing I'm taking a look at is just what needs to be upgraded. Um, And then from there, we'll get this stuff all upgraded. We won't be doing the ESLint upgrade, but a lot of the other stuff we will. So we'll get all of this upgraded so we're up to the latest on everything. Um, and then once it's all upgraded, we will we'll get Daisy UI installed and a couple other things that you may have seen if you were here at the start of the stream, as I was working through things. Um, but I need to upgrade the CLI. npm exec nx migrate Angular CLI. But that's what we're doing right now. Is we're just getting the repo set up. While we're setting up the repo, well, let's go to CaliDraw. And the first thing let's do is let's go. Come on, quit popping out over there. Let's make sure that we get same theme is on my computer. Um, and so here's the idea. Well, this has been something I've been thinking about for a while. But let's say that you've got some sort of component, right? And uh, this could be anything. So here we can say that um, the example that I want to build comes from my days working at an auto auction. So let's say we've got like a vehicle info component, right? And then the next thing we could do is we could add vehicle equipment. And then, another thing we could add is like, I didn't know I could scale like that. Let's try that again. Here we go. So the other thing we could do is the condition report. And what a condition report is at an auto auction is every auction will go out, and whenever a vehicle is brought into the auction, they have people who are really, really good at picking out damage. And they can pick out things like if the car, if it was repainted or if it needs, um, who knows what, right? Any little thing they'll pick out. And um, the industry standard is to grade the vehicle between a 1 and a 5. And so that person will walk around the vehicle, go through the interior. They may drive the vehicle. They're going to at least start it up to see if the engine runs rough. They're going to check out the engine. They're going to check out all the stuff about the vehicle, note everything they can about it, and then they're going to give it a grade between a 1 and a 5. Um, but I think This will be a good start, um, because different people at the auction will have different views. Um, so the person who's out writing the vehicle, um, writing the condition report on the vehicle, may have like an abbreviated version of the vehicle info. They're probably going to record the equipment, but they're also going to look at the equipment, the condition of the vehicle. Um, People in the office quite often will use this more often, and they won't be adding this information. And so, what this allows us to do is create a situation where different roles could have different views. Um, and in the beginning, I want to take this out to potentially an extreme. Um, and I want to prove if we can make a completely modular state system, um, and we're going to rely heavily on signal store and signal store features um, to make our state modular. Um, and we're going to be talking about how do we lift state, right? Because vehicle info has other stuff inside of it. So the vehicle info um, will have, um, we go here, it could have like the VIN, the year, the make, model. There's the trim. I don't know. Uh, you know that's probably good enough to get the idea across, right? And well, there's other information about the vehicle, like who owns the vehicle and things like that. Um, that the condition report writer isn't going to care about. And so building abbreviated views of this too is going to be important. And then detail like views so that people can look at the data. But like the VIN, um, this piece of state can exist here in the vehicle info as a piece of to display, but the vehicle equipment is often decoded from the VIN. So providing the VIN to the vehicle equipment is important. And even the year, the make, and the model could be useful over here. So how do we provide this in an agnostic way so that people can create modular versions of each of these, but provide the state that's needed in each level? Um, and um, we're probably going to be looking at some injection tokens. We're probably going to be looking at, well, we definitely will be looking at signal store features. And in the beginning, it's going to all be very static um, because I need to go fast to get this done in time to have something to demo for next Thursday when TinyConf happens. Um, which that's crazy to think we're a week away from TinyConf. So I need to get this code written. So it will all be very static, and then after after we get the static stuff in place, the next place to go, um, really want to investigate XState. And can we use XState in Angular um, along with a signal store to generate a state that's highly modular and that it can compose itself based on the components that are on the page instead of knowing what components you expect to be on the page. Because I'm really curious if the ultimate um, the ultimate end goal for this is to see if we could create like a drag and drop UI um, where a user could compose their own screens by dragging things around and adding them, and then controlling like maybe one user wants to see all of this stuff at the end, right? And they don't even care about the condition report, right? Um, and maybe another user um, only cares about this info, in the condition report, but they don't care about the equipment so much, right? And different views like that, and providing a modular enough, like this could be one of our blocks, right? The thing that captures the VIN, year, make, model, and trim. That could be one of our blocks very easily. Um, and so this block could be dropped anywhere. And then how do we provide that state once that block is dropped into a view? Um, and how do we compose views? And then how do we compose movement between, like an application? How do we move between the views? And how do we control state? Like, where should the state exist? Should this state only exist at this level? Should it exist at the vehicle info level? Should it exist at, between these two? So maybe at a higher level that's somehow composed, where we don't care about it as much here. And so there's there's a lot to consider here. Um, and I kind of want to get into it. I am distracting myself from getting the application going. Um, the CLI is now upgraded. So let's add the filter, the Angular filter here. Um, so schematics, only other one. Get the schematics Angular. And we can see that we don't have any migrations.json going on. We can also see that here that all we've updated is the package.json so far. We'll get that all done. Hey, Tukes, good to see you, man. Um, it's been a good while, and Saturday, or not Saturday, Monday was a bit frustrating for me. Um, we so the really annoying thing was we didn't actually lose power. We just lost power enough that it was knocking out my router. Um, so my router was losing power, which meant that I was disconnected from the stream, which meant it was a mess. Uh, I'm thinking about getting a battery backup for my router. I think I'm supposed to have one. I'm actually so I think it was a year or so ago that I was having trouble with the stream, um, where it was dropping kind of randomly. And so I had Comcast come out and they installed a backup for me. And that backup is, if my main router dies, it's supposed to kick over to cell towers. I get slower speeds, but it'll be enough to stream. Um, and then once my router becomes stable again, it's supposed to kick back and forth, right, and be seamless. And I didn't have that happen on Monday. I also thought that the cell backup is supposed to be battery backup. And so I am talking with Comcast to see if we can get that all fixed. But anyway, because it is really frustrating to have a plan, and to, just to be on stream with all you guys. Uh, the best Twitch Angular dev. Holy crap, dude. That is thank you. That's quite the compliment. I appreciate that. The nice thing is we've already done most of these upgrades already, and since we're using PNPM, we don't have to download anything. Um, so we'll take a look at what else we've got to go. How are things going? Tukes, you're up late. I know you are. So these we can all do. Um, we don't need to run any migrate commands for these. I don't think I need to run any migrate. Oh, these ones I do. The TypeScript, yes, Lint. I learned that we do need to run migrate commands for those. Yes, Lint config prettier. I don't think so. And then we'll grab prettier. TypeScript 5.52. Go to angular.dev. And the version compatibility. 4v9. There we go. Version compatibility. On the actively supported. So with 18, we can't do 5. So TypeScript will leave at 5.4. I don't know. Is that the case? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we can do Node at 22. We'll do TypeScript at 5.4. RxJS will there. So one thing we can do is we can just do our Volta in Node at 22. That should help. There we go. Now we've pinned our Volta at 20. Our Volta is now pinned our node at 22. So anybody who uses Volta will just get version 22 by default. We upgraded Angular and we pinned the node version. So upgraded Angular pinned node version. First time I pushed that, I think I pushed it before. Oh, it's the first time I've pushed this branch. That's why it's at. So the only other thing we need to do is let's go ahead and npm exec migrate. We will migrate the TypeScript ESLint and wait, I don't think I need to migrate these two. I think I'm thinking about the Angular, but I don't think it'll hurt either. Yeah, it's 1 a.m., man. Well, thanks for joining me late in the evening. We'll be going for the 2 hours today. Um, that is crazy. If I remember correctly, you're in Africa, so thank you for joining. I I don't know. I may do like a surprise stream on Saturday, just to make sure that I can get this code done. I've really got tonight, I've got Saturday, I've got Sunday and Monday night, and then this code really kind of so yeah. We may get an extra stream in, which hopefully makes up for Monday. Because still pretty frustrated about Monday. Oh well. One thing I didn't do before this. Take a look. WebStorm doesn't need an upgrade. Doesn't mean the packages don't, but WebStorm doesn't. You know what? While this is running in the background, one thing we can do is I want to run WebStorm as an administrator. And the reason for that is no, we can start this old project. That's fine. The reason I want to run it as an administrator is that there are a couple of packages that, for whatever reason, WebStorm needs to run as an admin for that. And it looks like just the GitHub Copilot one needs to be updated. Go ahead and update this one. And we'll restart it and hope it all works. That is an interesting graph here. Very fascinating. The way it draws that out. But looks like we're ready to restart. We'll restart it as an admin and then I'll stop running it as an admin. Ciao! Dude, it's good to see you here. But no. I was running. Okay, never mind. It's this one here that's the problem. And you know what? Let's go. I'm just gonna remove that one. So the feature trainer was one I installed a while ago. There it is. This one was one I just installed a while ago. We don't need it anymore, so we'll go ahead and remove it. I'm gonna shut this down. Oh, so because the screen was scrolled up, I thought we were frozen. We weren't. So the only other one that I want to migrate is this TypeScript ESLint parser. So npm exec nx migrate, paste that other one in. Hey Brian, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Absolutely, Chow. I'm happy to I'm happy to say hi to your kid. Um, that's awesome. Your choice of going for web and not mobile was clear for you. I mean, I know you started before mobile dev started, but you never been interested to go for mobile. So I have a love-hate relationship with mobile, Dukes. And that's the kindest way to put it. I have been very interested in mobile multiple times. And I've done mobile dev on like the Windows Phone, the BlackBerry, Android, iOS, Palm OS. I've done mobile dev on a couple of different platforms. Um, and um, so I haven't done like I haven't done any of the libraries, right, that do cross-platform mobile dev in a long time. I've done some of the early incarnations of the ones that are out there right now, but I haven't done any of the modern ones, and I hear they're pretty good. Um, I will tell you that I hated iOS development, um, especially like mobile iOS development. I really hated it. The the language that you had to use, just, I mean, if you hate, if you feel like Angular has a lot of decorators, go do some mobile iOS development. Um, and maybe it's changed since then, but man, Cocoa was horrible back then. The Windows Phone was actually pretty nice to develop for, but that was mainly because I was very strong in C sharp back then, and then C sharp translated, like all the tools for C sharp were available on the Windows form, um, or on the Windows Phone, and so Windows Phone development was actually really nice. Um, at that point in time, I love the idea of mobile, but web just web just has always taken, like, web is where my main love is. Swift, I've done both, and yeah, I said Cocoa. I've done Objective C and I've done Swift, and I did Cocoa. Was Cocoa one of their development platforms? I think that one's one of the older ones, right? Um, and so um, the thing about like the iPhone and Apple in general is that so many people use it that you can't ignore it, right? Um, and like the application that I'm talking about now, that I'm basing some of the ideas that I've got on for this, for the application, um, we we wanted to develop that for iOS, and that's, I mean, I had a Mac Mini on my desk, and I had iPhones and stuff, and oh, the thing that frustrates me is, to this day, I am still plagued by issues. So I needed to get a replacement Android phone. I've been Android since the G1 was released. Um, and like I I used to love hacking my Android and just installing homebrew stuff on it way back in the day. I don't do that as much now, mainly because I don't have the time. Um, but my boss thought he could convert me over to Apple. Um, And so while I was waiting for a phone to arrive, he gave me one of his old iPhones. I hated that thing so much. Um, I felt, I don't know. Like, my wife absolutely hates my Android. I absolutely hate her Apple. And so that's perfect because we never touch each other's phones and we're happy. Um, my daughters make fun of me because of the color of my text messages. Really, I don't care. Um, but yeah, um, mobile, mobile's tough. Um, because you either target one platform and it's easier, or you try to target a whole bunch of platforms and it's very fractured, right? And that's kind of where my love-hate relationship comes from, is just all of the weirdness that sneaks in there. But anyway, we will upgrade everything except for TypeScript and ESLint. So, and I don't really care about Node because or Zone, because we're going to get rid of it. Um, we're going to go zoneless on this too. Is ecstatic when he heard his name? No problem. Um, yeah, absolutely. I want to take a look at your clip. Chow has like one of the cutest kids I've ever seen. So I'm happy to see it. And you know what, Brian, if it makes your day, I'll say Brian as much as you want. That's awesome. I'm really happy that that helped you out, man. Um, anyway, um, so we're going to finish this up. Then we're going to get Daisy UI installed. Then we're going to get Signals, NGRX Signals installed. There's a couple other NGRX tools that I want to point out, um, that I really like the direction that the NGRX team has taken with these tools, of pulling them out of other packages and putting them into one package that can be used everywhere. I think that was a really good idea. The other thing that I'm really debating, because I really need to learn this tool package, because it's quite honestly becoming um, a must-have, um, is the ng extensions packages, and so we'll go take a look at some of those too and see if there's any of those we want to bring across. I don't want to muddy the waters too much, but I do want to treat it like something that you would do at an actual enterprise level. Because one of the things, the idea that we're doing doesn't make a lot of sense outside of the like. I think there are lessons that we can learn across the Angular ecosystem, but building a highly modular UI like this doesn't make a whole lot of sense outside of enterprise level. And um, the reason for that is that there are a lot of trade-offs you're going to make. Um, and the code, oh, I just upgraded TypeScript. Ah, that's okay. And just npm install TypeScript at 5.4. Well, we'll just say at around 5.4. We'll say, yeah, we'll say at around 5.4 because we don't want to go to 5.5. I'm actually a little bit frustrated that I didn't pick that up, but that's okay. We didn't actually do the install, so we should be good there. And now if we do the no frozen lock file, so we can do pnpm install no frozen lock file. That should be good. Um, yeah. So okay. So my downgrading TypeScript installed everything anyway. Actually, I ran that install. So now if we run NCU, we should see ESLint, zone, and TypeScript. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and commit this. Say that we upgraded our dependencies. And at this point, I've either completely broken everything or everything still works. And so to figure that out, um, we'll just go ahead and serve really quick. Um, oh, there we go. We're still serving. We're still good. Scroll bar popping out like that. I was like, what is that thing that pops out of the side? Scroll bar. All right. So we're good. We don't have any serious issues, but I wouldn't expect us to see any serious issues because we basically a basic Angular install. We've added Tailwind to it, and that's about it. So the next thing, let's see. Yeah, let's do that one. Get Daisy UI in place, and then we will get the signal store in place, and then like style lint, and that's it. Should be good to go after that. We can look at stuff later on, right? So Daisy UI is pretty easy to set up. Get that going. So just paste that in. I really, and I know I keep saying this um, every stream, but maybe that's a good sign of how good the Warp terminal is. That is the one thing I miss moving from my Mac to my PC. That Warp terminal. And I was watching Chow's Twitter stuff today as he was doing amazing things with Vim and his editor and his command line and stuff like amazing things. So there's some other stuff there that I may have to get into, right? So Then all we need to do is add to our Tailwind config. We just need the Daisy UI. And I think that's everything. So if we do pnpm, nope, no pnpm, it's going to go and we are going to start up WebStorm. I'm going to open our project, go up a directory. No, don't delete it. State. Here's our project. And we've got the README that we will be cleaning up because I want a good README in place for for the conference. I want to share this repo once it's there. But I minimized everything here. Can I not just update this? I'm not going to deal with it. Anyway, we want to go into our Tailwind config, which is in our app, our modular state. Inside of here, we've got our Tailwind config. And so we just want to add our plugins. We're just going to add Daisy UI to our plugin. Right here, we can just say, hey, we're going to add Daisy UI. I think it's all lowercase. Should be able to. Oh, that's interesting that it wants to do it that way. Oh, we are using const here. That's interesting. Typo in word Daisy UI. Yeah, I don't care. There's that. So the only other thing that we should do with Daisy UI is take a look at our themes. And um, I think by default we get light and dark. Um, I think but we can test it out, right? So as we test out our install, um, we can see which themes it has installed. Because I think by default Daisy installs light and dark, and then the latest versions of Daisy, yeah. So we automatically got the dark theme. If we go here and we hit escape, there's a couple of cool things we can do. Why can I not make this bigger? Not developer resources. Go field issues. Which one am I? There. So there's a way to go in and set things like we prefer dark mode or prefer light mode and things like that. I'm trying to remember where it is. I know it's here in these menus. Got autofill changes. I thought it was in developer resources, but this is just the resources that are loaded for our application. Um, so cheers, no. network connections is really nice because you can use it to do all sorts of cool things. Um, right here, you can turn on the throttling, which you can do from the network tab, and disable your caching. But there are other cool things you can do with network conditions, like telling it, hey, serve 404s from this domain or things like that. Actually, it's network request blocking that I'm talking about. Performance monitor, just quick, just the sources looking at. Is the thing I'm looking at like um, oh here if I hit over memory inspectors, quick source sensors, touch, idle is not the one I want either. Um, Search give me, does that refer? Maybe this stuff got moved into the CSS stuff. And I'm looking at this over on the wrong place, but go here in elements and accessibility. Keep to make away. Got event listeners, DOM breakpoints. Is it under accessibility? People what I'm looking for. Properties, no. What am I? Um, there's a way to. Is this it? Oh, that's interesting. So they moved it. So here we can say, hey, if they prefer light or prefer dark or automatic dark mode, right? But we can basically toggle what our site looks like using these. Um, for some reason, there were other accessibility things, and we can turn that on and off here. But by default, out of the box, Daisy UI gives us a light and a dark mode. Um, we're just going to go with the default light and dark modes from Daisy. I don't want to mess with themes too much, but I did want to show you that you get automatic light and dark that will listen to what their browser says right out of the box with Daisy, which I find awesome. Um, there was another thing that I was looking for, and I'm gonna have to find it so I can show it off. But reload dev. Um, but there are a whole bunch of accessibility things we can do with DevTools too, and there are a whole bunch of other things we can emulate. And I need to remember where they are. And the other thing I'm going to do is get out of that view so I stop highlighting things and cause my screen to flash. But anyway, there we go. We've got Daisy installed and we don't have to do anything with the themes. We're all good. Go ahead and commit that. Um, Add and configure Daisy by push that. And what do we got next? I'm gonna stop serving. The other thing I want to do, this is a bit weird to me, but we'll update this and shut it down. I don't know why I have so much trouble updating the GitHub Copilot. We're just going to shut it down. Yeah, we're going to shut it down. And then when we restart it, we'll restart it as an admin and see if the update works. But let's go take a look over here. And so we've got Daisy in place. So mutative is the next one. I like mutative, and I want to do immutable data. So we're going to take a look at mutative. Do I want to do immutable data? Yeah, we'll do immutable data. So we're just going to do this, copy this one, and we'll do it with PNPM. So we add mutative, and we'll use that one here in a little bit. We aren't going to use it right off the bat. We'll use it once we start building state. Style lint, we'll get that in here pretty soon. NGRX signals is the last thing we want to do. And I think we can do can I do npm nx add grx/signal? Yeah. And this should run the Angular generators also, because NX understands the Angular generators. So we've now added NGRX signals. And it used to ask if you wanted to add the ESLint packages, but it doesn't do that anymore. There are a couple other libraries that we should take a look at. The NX operators is a good library, and it adds two operators right now: concat latest from and tap response. Oh, now I've got map response. So now it adds three. Oh yeah, I remember them talking about this. So map response is similar to tap response. But the nice thing about tap response and map response is that they force you to add handlers for errors. And because they force you to add the handlers for errors, it's a lot safer because you're less likely to break your NGRX stuff, your RxJS pipelines and things like that. So I definitely recommend these ones too. So we'll go ahead and we will run this too. I keep forgetting to add the exec on here. It works most of the time, but when NX doesn't work, it gets a little bit frustrating. So I'm trying to get into the habit of always adding the exec. And really what I need to do is just alias a command that always has exec in it, but I'm too lazy to do that. So. And then the last thing that I like to add, I want to take a look at store dev tools eventually, but which schematics do we have in here? So these are store, is this actual NGRX stores? Okay, so this just registers the store dev tools. Actions, reducers, selectors, containers, effects, entities, and features. We won't be using those. But I do love the ESLint plugins. And they really simplify the plugins. There used to be a whole bunch of different ones that you could do. now they've really simplified it down to um, just a couple. Um, I typically just install the all. We could probably go with just the signals and operators, but let's go with all. And so again, we'll just use the Angular generator through NX. And that should get all of our NGRX stuff set up. And from there, it's really just ESLint. We should be good to go. I want to, at this point, run like our tests and our linter to just make sure I haven't broken any of my tooling yet. And then once we do that, trusting that this is taking a bit longer than I. Yeah, that's my YouTube behaving a bit strange. Yeah, this is active. For whatever reason, my CloudBot is not. Do I have to go? So, oh, never mind. It's working now. Never mind. I don't know what's going on there. But sometimes I have to go enable things in multiple places. But it is activated. Look at my command is turned on, so we are good. Anyway, we're almost there. What I want to do once this is done is start building the modular components, um, and we'll build the state along with the components that are used for those, and just just to talk about where I think we'll start. Because I don't know how long some of this stuff's going to take, but if we go take a look here, we'll start building out like this vehicle info in a modular way. And then, we could potentially add the equipment in a modular way. And then, if time permits, we'll look at the condition report. But I think this one and this one will give us enough to show, what could be needed. And then this one we can build out and later on in the stream so that we get like kind of a full application. I'm not going to build a backend for this. We're going to fake the backend. And there's a whole bunch of ideas running around in my head. So one thing that I really want to explore, and you guys can let me know how interested you are in this, is in the past, I've built communications libraries that communicate in deltas. So what do I mean by that? So you grab, say, like in the case of this vehicle, right? We grab a vehicle, I go in and I change the year. That's a delta against the vehicle. And that delta says that I changed the year from, maybe 2020 to 2022, right? Um, and then I go in and I change the model, or I go in and I change the make, from Ford to Honda, and the model I change it from, I don't know, Focus to a Civic, right? And then the trim, right? Each one of those is deltas. Um, and so in a delta system, what you do is you store those deltas up. And the view of the current vehicle is actually calculated based on those deltas. So you're using an optimistic save mechanism that builds up those deltas. Um, when you actually go save to the database, you pass all those deltas across. And the nice thing about passing deltas is um, in a multi-user system, right? Let's say that I went in and I changed the year and the trim, um, and let's say that somebody else changed the make, right? But they wanted my year and trim updates. It doesn't make sense on a vehicle, right? Because the trims are very tied to makes, but maybe they changed the model, right? Um, or even just to make it simpler, let's say I went in and changed the year. They went in and they changed the trim, right? In a in a Delta-based system with optimistic updates, um, those two updates come in. The system takes my update and it's like it's a delta. Oh, it's a delta just for the year. Yeah, change the year. Boom, that's it. The year's changed. It sends the data back to me. I squash those down to the latest value received from the server. The next one comes in and they just updated the trim, right? Um, and the nice thing about this is that I don't have to version my object, right? So in some like multi-user concurrency systems where you could have users providing saves against vehicles, right? Because we both checked out the vehicle well, and that was the other thing that we used to do is we used to lock a vehicle, so somebody would check it out and it was locked and nobody could update it, right? Um, that becomes really, really tedious as you get more and more employees. Um, and so then we started looking at like record resolution. And so we would add a version number to our records. Um, and so when you would save the record, you would have the old version that it was coming from. The version would be the same as where it was coming from. We didn't update the version, so it would know, oh, this was from version whatever of the vehicle. Um, that gets to be a mess too. Um, when you're doing when you're doing version when you're doing delta resolution, the really cool thing about it is let's say that I go to save and let's say I change the year in the trim and one of you changed the trim, right? Um, so my year change is immediately accepted. Let's say you got yours in first, right? So your trim change is already there. My year change goes in immediately. Your trim change is already there. What happens in that case is we get a conflict resolution. And we can write rules around that. We could say, oh, if based on we could still version the vehicle and do all kinds of stuff like that. But typically, what we would do is we would just take everything that was a conflict and we would send it back to the user, and we would say on the server, there's this value. You're changing it to this value. And then we would allow them to go in and say, yeah, keep this one, keep this one, keep this one, keep this one. Those deltas then get sent across, um, and those deltas are applied. And so we've allowed the user to make decisions, but they only have to make decisions about, you know, things that they changed, and only have to make decisions about things that are conflicts on the server. Um, and a lot of times, um, when you're trying to save an entire object, this becomes difficult, right? You have to write compares. And that's the other thing we would do is a lot of times we would send the server version back and then the application would create a compare and it would do the same thing, right? And then update the record and send the new record across. Um, when you're doing deltas, you don't have to do that. It also allows you to be optimistic in fetching and do a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. And so that's another thing I've been kicking around as an idea to share with everybody is what do we do in the case where we've got where we've got a lot of users? How do we handle that? Um, and the really cool thing, and part of the reason why I'm so excited about Signal Store, is that we can build a feature that would provide deltas like that. And those deltas can be written into they can be written into the I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't know why. Because I'm thinking about a million different things. But if we go here into the application, I'm going to feel silly as soon as I say the index DB. So you could actually write those deltas into the index DB, um, which means that if the application shuts down, um, when they go check that vehicle out again, you can bring those deltas back, right? And when I say check it out, when they load the vehicle again, you could go. Um, I'm already falling back into the old language we used to use, but you could use IndexedDB to apply your deltas against the vehicle that you get from the server, and you could do conflict resolution at the time that you start the application again. So, as you're editing a vehicle, you're writing those deltas to the IndexedDB, because again, optimistic saving, right? Um, but until you actually hit the save buttons and say, yeah, I want this to go to the server, um, you're still persisting that data in their browser, um, which is really cool. And you can even extend on that. And if that storage needs to follow them across browsers or across computers, you could start pushing those deltas to the server, and the server can record those deltas and then give them back to you as you need them. Um, and there's a lot of power and persistence there, but because you're writing updaters for your object, you can create those deltas when those updates happen. You can hook into the store and say, this is what it was before, this is what it was after. You could create a delta yourself, or you could write your updaters in such a way that they take the deltas that you want to capture anyway, and then you just write those deltas out also, along with updating the state. And so there's a lot of power there. The other cool thing that gives you right away is that gives you an undo and redo feature. So you get history for free by going to a delta. But there is more work, right? So and it changes the way that you look at updates, right? Instead of a post endpoint accepting an entire vehicle, or a patch endpoint accepting an entire vehicle. Now those patch endpoints only accept the deltas, and then they have to know how to apply the deltas and all of that stuff. But it becomes extremely powerful. It turns a lot of what you do into almost transactional data, kind of like the way that you work with like financial data, right? Um, And so um, there's just a lot of power in it. And, I nerd snipe myself, which is hilarious. But anyway, um, so we added, oh, I was waiting for the NGRX stuff to finish, and it's still going. Why is this still going? Like, here we can see we've got the files. Next, JavaScript. Yeah, here's the NGRX all. We've already got that one. It's all there. We added the operators, we added the signals, we added mutative. It hasn't updated the packet. I wonder if because I hadn't added the stuff before, was that the issue? Just see, if I break out of this and try to run it again, is it going to give me anything? That time it worked. And I think it did the all. Um, so we saw that it added the all package here. This is the NGRX all. in the package JSON. See operators and signals. What I'm not. Oh, there's the ESLint plugin right there. Oh, this is interesting. Why did it add it in both places? I wonder if that was the problem. We actually don't want these here. Go to edit this file. So these two shouldn't be here. But we do want the ones that are up here, the operators and signals. They should be part of our dependencies because we want them in our code. And they're not part of our dev dependencies. Schematics belongs here. This stuff all belongs here. Yeah, I think we're good. There we go. Stage all of these and just say that we added TRX signals and muted it. So Minto class, first of all, welcome to the stream. Thank you for the hi. How did you go with analog block style issue in your last stream? Uh, I didn't fix it. I wasn't able to fix it. And in fact, I sent Chow a branch after the stream, asking about it because I didn't know what I did to break it. And I was planning on looking at that today, but then I realized I've only got a week to get some code written for the talk I'm giving at TinyConf. So after TinyConf, we will definitely be coming back to we'll be coming back to analog, and I want to figure that one out because that one was frustrating. I really I don't know why all of the CSS was processed except for the CSS and any of the style tags of my analog components. So my talk is on this kind of. So, and this doesn't give you a very good representation, but I'm speaking on how do we create highly modular components and highly modular state that can be composed at any level. So we can compose our state at this level if we want. We can compose our state at a higher level if we want, or, and I'm not showing this here, but there's actually the application level. And so we could compose our state at the application level depending on need, right? So we may only need state in the form itself. And so in that case, we only use it there. We may want to keep state between, pieces of the view, right? So we have pieces of the form that we can put together, but we may want to keep state between pieces of the view. So we can move it up, we can move the state to this level. But we may also want to keep state between different views. So how do we move it to the top level? But if I move state, around like that and can provide it anywhere, how do I interact with it at the lowest level, right? Like, how do I ask for state that exists clear up here? Because I don't want to add references to the state that exists at the application level at this low level because maybe we want to compose a whole new application. And that's kind of the point of like modular stuff, right? Is we only want our state to be we only want to compose the state that we need for the application. So kind of give a view of this. Another potential here is, this could be an application. And this could be an application. and this could be an application, right? And maybe we also include this in this application, right? And so we don't want this state to show up in the third application, but we definitely want it to show up in these two applications. And how do we do that, right? How do we create these blocks that we can use to build applications? Because if we do this, we can build highly targeted applications for our customers, right? And like in the web, you could think of things like I don't know, like trying to come up with stuff that it's not going to get me in trouble. Um, but you could highly target what you build to the customer, and when done right, this should be just quick, right? Um, so adding this and then saying, hey, I need this state should be all you need to do, and then your application's good to go, right? And in the case of the green application, we add this. We don't need it here, right? Because we'll be providing it at a higher level. So we only need to provide this once, but it needs to be provided at a higher, like the state for this needs to be provided at a higher level. And maybe some of the state comes from here, but it still goes in, right? And how do we do that, right? How do we target that state? So that's the talk that I'm preparing. And my slides are mostly done, but I realized, hey, you don't have any code. And if you don't have any code, um, it's all theoretical. And I felt like I was talking above the problem because I couldn't reference, like, yeah, look in the code. This is how we do it, right? Instead, I'm talking about theoretical things. Um, and I want the talk to be, um, more objective, and less theoretical, less subjective content. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking on. TinyConf is on the 28th. It's all day. It will be recorded. It will be streamed to YouTube, and we are streaming. I think I don't remember. I know we do YouTube and LinkedIn. I think Twitch or Facebook is the third. I don't remember. But it will be streamed to YouTube and LinkedIn for sure. And then all of the talks will be recorded. And so you should have access to all of the talks within like a week after it's over. Adi is really good at getting that all edited and all put out there. So, that one's gonna be a lot of fun. It's typically that day is me, Marcus, and Adi, and we just sit around and we have a good time talking to amazing people in the Angular community, um, you know, telling jokes, just having a good time, and it's a lot of fun. Um, anyway, that's what we're building. Um, so how do we get there? Last piece, and you guys, I'm definitely gonna have to do Saturday stream. Um, So look for that. I don't know what time I'm going to do it Saturday. There's a couple of things I've got to get accomplished Saturday. My daughter has been begging for a way to get the top off of her Jeep. So we'll probably be doing that. I need to fix the sprinklers in my yard. There are a couple of things I've got to do, and then we'll come in and write some code. Um, I don't know what time that'll be. I will try to get that nailed down and let everybody know Saturday. I also want to do it early enough in the day that, well, I don't know. Saturday's a tough day to do it early in the day anyway, because people are busy on Saturdays. But yeah, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday we'll be streaming. And then Thursday we'll be at TinyConf, so no stream Thursday. But yeah. All right. Last piece, and then we can start writing some code. So the last piece is I love style lint. One of my favorite tools. The main reason that I love it so much is that it like modern CSS syntax changes a lot. Style lint's really good at showing me what's changed and helping me out with that. Um, because I like this tool, this is a reason why, one of the other reasons why I don't typically put CSS in the components, why I like to put CSS in its own file, and then keep the HTML in the component, because a lot of the tools are really good at the HTML stuff in Angular components, but StyleLint doesn't handle Angular components really well. So if I run this, I should be able to just do pnpm create StyleLint, and that should run my StyleLint for me and add all the stuff I need for it. And we aren't we're doing pure CSS. So we're going to do Tailwind, we're going to do Daisy UI, and we're going to do pure CSS. And that's it. So we're good. Styling is all set up. I love the fact that we can just use their init tool and it's going to create everything we need. And I think it automatically installs the standard config, which is all we really want. For right now, we can go more in depth if we feel like we need it in the future. But I should be able to do like pnpm style lint, and that should run. And I think I just need to do /star/star.css. And there we go. We already have some issues that it doesn't know what Tailwind is. We need to fix that. So I think there's something we can add here for Tailwind. Let's see. Tailwind. That's the one I want. Um, it it's crazy how much it's crazy how much light websites stand out, just because um, so many sites are now so good at respecting whatever you set on your computer. And then the last thing we need to do is just add to the style and config. We just need to add Tailwind there. Go and I want to run this as admin just to make sure that it is going to gonna update my what do I want to call it? My Copilot plugin. There we go. I believe it did update it. Yep. So now that we're here, we can now go in and just modify our style lint for C, and we can just add our. I think I need to turn on prettier. Prettier is on for my settings. Got it disabled. We want it automatically. ASTS. We also want it on HTML. I don't think I'll be adding HTML because we'll be using TypeScript for that, but we do want it on JSON. And I think those are the right ones. We also want to run it on save. So there we go. Now if I save this, what did I do? Format was prettier and it's not. Okay. So I guess this isn't big enough to be reformatted. It so it was working. So there's style lint fixed. So now if I go run the style lint again, it shouldn't complain about the Tailwind imports. Oh, what did I do? I just tried to install that. Yeah. So there we go. So now we've got an empty source. So our style int is working. Then the other thing we can do is pnpm exec nx run many, and we can just run our lint and just make sure that we haven't broken our linter. Prettier is working, and so we're ready to get started. Maybe my linter is going to run. I guess while we wait for, that's crazy that it's taking so long to run. Let's go ahead and just commit that we added style lint. There we go. We've got all of that in place. And I will tell you guys, I don't know how people do beards. Like, I am so itchy right now. I'm ready to shave the entire thing off, and I think I probably will. Um, I'm not sure what's going on here. Why are we stuck? I'm curious if try again. Yeah, that's really weird. I wonder if WebStorm was keeping a lock on something that it was trying to run with the TSLint um, or the ESLint stuff. But our linter is now working, and we could even do pnpm exec prettier. I think we just do */star.ts, and that should run prettier for us. We can see, yeah, that it ran prettier, and we're in a good place. And it didn't modify anything. So we know our tool chain all works. So that's good. Let's go ahead and launch our, go ahead and launch WebStorm. And let's talk about what we want to do and where things should live. Um, and this is where about a half hour. I need to end on time. I was about to say on purpose, but really what I mean is on time. Um, so we've got our app right here, right? And it's got our modular state in it. Where should our state live? It really should live in a library. And so first thing we want to do is create NX library. Do I not have NX? There they are right there. And so here. Well, let's just do this. NX generate UI. So what we want to generate is a library. We want an Angular library. So we're going to create the NX Angular library. And the name of the library, so what we want to do is we want to make it easy to add inputs to the page. So we aren't having to add CSS tags over and over again, right? So the first library we can build is our shared-UI library. And we can see that it's going to put it in shared UI. Actually don't want it there. I would prefer that it live in lib's shared UI. So let's see if we can get it moved into there. I would like to get rid of you too. It's not going to be buildable. The directory where the library is placed is libs. And I may have to spell things out. Lib source lib shared UI. So if I do libs source shared dash UI, is it going to do lib source shared UI shared source lib? I don't want the. We'll put it in libs. But like the source lib shared UI, oh, and it's putting it in the libs project too. So we actually want it in libs shared dash UI. So now we've got our project there. Source lib shared UI. That's fine. This is fine. Lazy, we aren't going to be routing to any of these, so we don't care. Publishable, no. Routing, again, we aren't going to be routing to them, so no. Module spec. Yeah, we don't need to add Tailwind, even though we will be using Tailwind. By default, we want on push change detection. Compilation mode, we're just going to leave alone. Display block, we'll set that on, but we're going to use directives for our components, so we won't need that. And flat, we don't want that. Import path. This is where we will do at modular state, and this will just be our shared UI. So that's gonna. This is going to create our barrel file. One thing to be aware of in when you're using ES build, the ES build tree shaking isn't as robust as the Webpack tree shaking. And what I mean by that is that it will bail quicker thinking that there are side effects. So we may have to be a little bit more granular with our barrel files, and that's fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. And inline template, but not inline styles. Linter ESLint is fine. The prefix to apply to generated selectors. I don't want to have to type out the whole modular state, and so we're going to do mod state. Does that work? Yeah, I mean, I was going to shorten it down to MS, but that starts to look like Microsoft, and so as provided is fine. Selector, um, we'll let it create the selector because we're going to delete those anyway. Parse, we don't need that. We don't need simple names. We're not going to skip anything. Definitely standalone. Definitely strict. CSS, and the reason we're using CSS is we can do CSS nesting now. The only thing we can't do that SCSS can do is like looping, right? So generating things based on dictionaries and things like that. But um, and then tags use add tags to the library that we'll use for linting. We absolutely want to do this, and the tags we want here, um, we're going to call this we're going to add lib and we're going to add UI as the tags. And then the unit test runner can be jest, I don't care. View encapsulation, like I do care, but jest is perfectly fine. View encapsulation, we aren't going to mess with that. And standalone config is NX, and that's all good. So this is our library. We'll go ahead and generate this. And we're going to generate the inputs as we need them. This is our shared UI. And shared UI, the point of shared UI is to hold things like buttons um, and inputs and things like that. Um, so first thing we want to do, um, and is we need to create just a text input. So go ahead and generate one of those. Um, but first, let's go and commit this. I also want to clean up the stuff that it generated. So here, I don't care about the shared UI. We don't have a shared UI component, so that's fine. So that means we also need to clean this file up. And our test setup is fine. Our TS config is fine. I think we're good. Let's go ahead and commit this. I typically can be bad at this. So, we're going to stage all of this stuff and our shared added shared UI library. The only thing we're going to put in here is, well, we'll put two things in here. We're going to put in a button and we're going to put in an input. And then anything else we'll add as needed. But I don't want to get too bogged down in building UI components. I want to make sure that we stay focused on building the modular pieces that we can put together, and then building the state that will work with those. So push that. And only other thing I want to do, well, it's not the only, but here in our shared UI lib, we're going to run our NX generator, and we want to generate a directive. We want an Angular directive. Inside of here, the name of the directive is going to be our input directive. And the directory where it will live is it's going to live in the source lib input directory. And we can change this. We can change this feature to be derived if we wanted, and then I think we can get rid of this, right? I get rid of that. Don't ask again, please. Does that not work? Provided, then derived. So you can see that, um, it's putting it in the same place, but um, as provided gives us more control. Um, so we can actually just do source, and we can do source inputs, right? And so now I don't need the lib anymore. Um, so now it's going in our libs, our shared UI source, and our inputs directory. Um, so we can have, our text input here. We could have a drop down here, things like that, and we could add like source buttons for buttons. We don't have an ng module, so we don't care. Name and directory format as provided. Prefix, we shouldn't care. We can clean that up if we need to. The selector, so our selector is going to be a button, and then the button needs to have the attribute of mod state input, and that will be our selector on this. Why is it saying that's invalid? Derived won't exist moving forward. That's good to know, Minto. Have I got a link for the conference? Let me go grab a link for that for you. So on Angular tiny conf the 2023. Have we not got the 2024 one up? Yeah, this was definitely last year. Either tinyconf.com. Dev events. There we go. I will get back to you on that one. We're a week out and we don't have a website. We'll get that figured out. Wondering if apps and libs directories are needed all in NX. Um, the reason I like to have libs and apps um, is it helps me not to clutter the root directory. Um, honestly, it's up to you, right? Whatever you want to do is perfectly fine. I like to do libs and apps because I know that anything in libs are my libraries, and I know anything in apps are my apps. Um, and there will be some other organizational stuff we'll do here. So inside of libs, we will also be adding libs, but they'll be going inside of like screens maybe, or inputs maybe, or things like that. That will be the blocks, right? So we might have like maybe a block, and then maybe a screen subdirectory, and then those will be built in there. And then the application can be composed of blocks and screens. And in the beginning, they will be very static, but we can show how we can take what we build here and quickly scaffold a brand new application, and bring a brand new application, to life in, a matter of minutes, which is the power of this modular stuff. But that I don't know. I am a little bit of a stickler for how things are how the directory structure works, mainly because I understand how much anarchy people like to introduce, and it can get a little bit frustrating at times. But anyway, we'll take the selector out. We'll modify the selector ourselves. We're not gonna skip anything. Standalone, yes. So this is the interesting thing, right? If we turn the flat off, it's going to create the inputs. I guess that doesn't do anything when that's very fascinating. But it goes into the shared UI, so we're good. We're going to generate it, um, and that's it. One thing that I want to take a look at, and maybe we'll do this in the future, is Playwright has the notion of component testing. So I'm curious about adding Playwright component tests. One thing I've stopped doing for a lot of things is writing unit tests for components. Um, like this unit test, I would just delete it. And maybe I should just pick don't create unit tests. But I would like to have component tests for this that test how it works. There we go. We've got that. In the index, we're just going to export star from, and here we're going to go source. We are in source. We just want to go. Oh, did this not get put inside a lib? Oh, I didn't put it inside a lib on purpose. I didn't want it in lib. Yeah, we're just going to export star from dot slash inputs slash input. In the future, if our exports get to be too big, what we can do is we can add an index file to inputs, and then we can export stuff from inputs, and then we would modify our tsconfig, right? So there we go. Here's our inputs. This is our directive. And here we just want to make sure that we put it on a button, not a button, an input. It's a standalone, and we don't need hardly anything, really. The whole point of this is just to get CSS to our whatever we add it to. So we're going to just do class, and the classes we're going to grab are from Daisy UI. So the first thing we can do is get rid of this blinding thing. Then we can go over here to our Daisy UI, and under our components, we not have inputs, modal, swap, theme controller. They've got a theme controller toggle. That's kind of cool. Accordion badge. They've got breadcrumbs. That's nice. Data input, file input, radio, range, rating, select, text input. This is the one we want. There we go. So we want a form control. We are going to want labels for our stuff. But we may just use labels there. Input bordered. I think we want input bordered. So here, and then we aren't going to be adding icons. We can do those later if we need those kinds of things. But interesting. Text labels inside. Do we want to do it this way? Maybe I do. But I think that there is a way to turn that outline on and off too. Maybe Border just automatically adds it and they don't have that anymore. But I do like this. Do like these here. Um, they're putting this on the label. Um, oh, this is the one that has the grow on it. Um, so if I just do this, does search not have the grow on it? It does. That's being, let's want to turn off. Yeah, I'll worry about it later. It's not a big deal. You guys just learned my middle initials L. Um, so I'm curious about, no. So they're putting these, they've got input bordered. They're adding that to the label itself. Um, and I wonder if that's what moves it inside. So like here, if I look at this, yeah, yep, I think that's what does it. So if I put the input and input bordered, um, interesting. Let's just try something out here. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to target the label instead of the um, input. Um, and we're going to add our classes here. And that's going to give us our input bordered, our flex, our item center, and our gap of. And this is really all we need to do. So if we go and go to our app, here we're going to go into our source, our app. We're going to get rid of this component. Yes. Delete anyway. We're also going to go into our app component and we're going to delete this. Yes. Delete anyway. Oh, wait. What did I delete? I deleted the TS. Dang it. Yes. Don't want that deleted. Don't ask again. And here, I just want to delete the HTML file. We're going to put it Um, we're going to put it inside of the component. So in our component now, we can get rid of the NX welcome component. We might use the router in the future, so we'll leave. Well, we don't need it yet, so we won't leave it. So we'll get rid of our imports for now. We'll actually be using them soon. And then our template, we won't use a URL. We'll go to an inline template. Boom. We are standalone. We don't need the title either. And so in our template, we should be able to do just here, we can do our label and yep, our mod state input. And so if we follow the way Daisy UI does this, then inside the label, we add our text and then our input. So we can also do that here. So our label here, we can just say, hey, you are, I don't know, test input. And then, yep, that's fine. But we're going to take these classes off here because we don't need them. Type equals text. We'll give it a placeholder. Equals, I don't know, test input, or enter something. And I think that's all we need. We just add the closing label and come on, not gonna work. There we go. There's our closing label. So we need to import our mod. We need to import our input directive. So there we go. We're good there. And when we compile this, we should now get, am I still serving? I'm not serving. So npm exec nx serve modular state. So there we go. We've got, our polyfills, our styles, and our main JS. We can get rid of our polyfills actually. So we'll fix that too. But here we go. Here's our input, right? And testing for. So our input is good. We've now created a test input. Now uses the Daisy UI stuff. So our input works. One thing we could do just to make this a little bit nicer is we just put div class here. We can move this stuff up into it. So there we go. And I think the container class, yeah. So if we inspect this, the container class has a max width of 1024. Oh, it automatically gets, that's cool. And we can mess with this later. But right now we've got an input that will work. And I kind of want to focus a little bit because the next thing I want to do is go back to my libs and let's add a new directory. And this directory, we're going to call this our components. And Then inside this directory, well, actually, before we do this, we'll make sure that we commit everything. So we got rid of the component.html. And unstage that. Got rid of that. We modified this. We modified that. Actually, let's unstage this too. What do I want to do? Made component not default NX component. And then here we added an input component. And the reason we're using directives is that we can still use bindings for them, but we don't need we don't need we don't need to create like the adapters, right? The form adapters that you typically need to do if you create your own components. And so we're using a directive that targets the label, and then that's adding the classes that we need. So to get this look and feel, we would just do that. Add the mod state input. Um, the one thing I'm curious about is if we go to Daisy UI. Did I not? Oh, here we go, Daisy UI. So there's very little difference between the label and the input. Let's go find the label and see if we can do. Um, I would kind of like um, I would like a little bit more difference between. I don't know. I'll worry about that later. Right now we're just going to use what we've got. Anyway, and that little puppy came in here and decided to yell. That's what she does best. So we're going to generate a library here. This is going to be a regular library. And what we want to do is we want to create a library per component. And this will be important as we work more and more with things, because we want to be able to import the smallest amount of code when we bring it in. So we're going to create a library. Name of our library. This will be we'll call this our base. We'll call this our vehicle info. Be our vehicle info component. It goes in libs component vehicle info source. And that's fine. I'm not going to fight with it too much. I'm okay with it being in libs component vehicle info. That's fine. Lazy loaded, we don't need, because we aren't using routing for these components. These components won't be routed to. We don't need, router stuff for them. It won't be publishable, but there's nothing stopping us from being publishable. Module, we don't need tests for the module. We don't need Tailwind. Change detection on push by default. We'll turn it off if we don't want it. Display block, yes, please. I mean, the other thing we could do is make this flat. So then we don't wind up with the libs component vehicle info, right? It sits at the root of the lib directory, whereas if we turn off the flat, then it's going to go lib vehicle info component. I want to leave flat on, right? We aren't seeing that, but the import path, this is going to be at, and this will be modular state, and then we can do slash vehicle.info. And I'm trying to decide if I like this or not. Um, there was an RFC at Bill that I'm getting used to, and so I'm trying to figure out if I like this or not. But the RFC says that instead of using dashes, we should be using dots. And so I'm trying to get used to that. We're going to inline the template. The prefix to generate. So our prefix for all of these should be mod state. Selector, we'll let it generate on its own. Simple name, skip module, skip selector, skip tests, yes. Standalone, strict, style, CSS, tags. The tags, we're going to add also a lib tag to this one. And the other tag we want to add is component. And we're going to go use the tags later on, but I just want to make sure that we're using them now. And that should be good. So we've now generated all of that. And so now what we can do is now we're in a place where we need to start generating a bunch of stuff. But what I wanted to do first is make sure that we get all of this added. So shared UI and vehicle.info, that should be probably shared.ui. See, I don't even follow it. I need to get better at following it. And so I'm trying to force myself to do it other places. So let's see, we added the vehicle.info library. We'll commit these changes, and then we will push this. And now we're in a place where we need to start talking about a couple of different things. But first, let's just go to our vehicle.info or vehicle info component right here. And inside of here, we want a couple of things. First thing we can do is we can add a host binding. So, if we look at the lib in our SCSS, right now we've got a host display block. We don't need that yet. We can just come down here and we can do a host binding. And inside of here, we can do class. And for now, we'll just do block. And we aren't going to add any backgrounds or shadows or anything like that, because we want to be able to put this wherever wherever, right? We might come back and do some interesting things with container queries. But for right now, we're going to go really, really simple, right? And so we need a couple of things. I don't think that I need the common module, but we'll leave it there. So we need some state for this to work with. right? And the state that it's going to work with, we will put by the vehicle first, and then push it up as needed. And that's typically the process that I follow. So we'll follow the same process, right? So in the directory, um, inside of our lib, we can add a new directory, and this can be our state. And inside of here, we can add a new TypeScript file, and this will just be our vehicle.model.ts. And from here, we're just going to export type from vehicle equals that, boom, boom. And there's a reason for this file to exist, but for right now, we're just going to do some simple stuff, right? So we want a year, and that's going to be a number. We want to make, and that will be a string. We want a model, and that will also be a string. And we want to trim, and that will be a string. Year, make, model, trim. Is there anything? Oh, yeah, we absolutely need a VIN. What else would we want to put on that? Oh, yes, yes, yes. Stock number, perfect. Um, and uh, at some point in time, we're going to come back and look at this. We're going to look at the stock number in terms of value object and trim. We might take a look at most of these in terms of value objects, um, but we won't get to that before the talk, right? I've only got a few days to put this together. So we've got a year, make, model, trim, VIN, and stock number. When stocking in a vehicle, I think about that. Year, make, model, trim, and stock number. Is there anything else? Like eventually we'll be adding other stuff to it, like grades and stuff like that. But I think these are the ones that we want. So in the vehicle info component, we now need a way to get information here. And this is where our stores and stuff come into play. And so we should start thinking about, our state will have a store. Well, our vehicle info component might have a store. For right now, it will. So one thing we can do is we can add a new TypeScript file, and this will be our vehicle info store.ts. And this is where we're going to start using the signal store, right? So we're going to export const, and here, create component. That's hilarious. We aren't going to create a component here. We're going to export the const, and this is going to be our vehicle info store. And yep, we want to create a store. And it's not if no, it's info. And we will import create store from, oh, it's not create store, it's signal store. There we go. So now our vehicle info store has as or is using name signal from an external module. Well, yeah, absolutely. But we aren't using the signal anywhere. And so what we can do is we can say, hey, with state, and we want to import that. So with state, and then here we want to be able to create a default state. Um, and this is where I like to use the model files because the model files will help out. And so inside of here, we can say, hey, default state, right? We can say export const default state equals, um, and um, well, actually, let's do export function default state. And I keep going back and forth on what to name things, but here we can just say, yeah, return that. That's fine. Um, and really, we don't want any values in here, but for right now, we'll leave it as is. Our stock number, we're gonna do like A001, where A is the lot, and then it's an incrementing number. It's hilarious that it generated a VIN. I wonder if that VIN, um, I'm just really curious. Does that VIN decode? VIN decoder. If I put this VIN in here and I decode it, I am impressed. I am very, very impressed. Um, so that's a 2022 Chevy Silverado LTD pickup. Um, if we go take a look at the code that it generated, so it got it slightly wrong. But the fact that it generated a VIN that decodes to that did it generate the right year? I didn't even look. Yeah, 2022 Chevy Silverado LTD. Um, and the crazy thing about this, right, is from this VIN, um, I don't know if they give it here, but um, when you decode these VINs, oh, it's got to check. So the so the way VIN decoding works is it's actually based on when you look at the VIN, this one GC tells us that this is a Chevy, and then this UIDED tells us a lot of information about the year, make, model, and trim. Actually, I think the 10th digit in the VIN is the year. So there's a lot of information in here, but there's a check digit, and it's telling us that the check digit doesn't calculate properly. Um, but still, for Copilot to generate that was pretty impressive. Um, actually, oh no, it even got the trim right. The trim is wrong here. The trim is an LT. So it was an LT. Anyway, um, got distracted again, but the nice thing about this is that now we can go into our store and we can just say, hey, we want the default vehicle. And I called it state, didn't I? Did. That's fine. We can just do default state. That's fine. We can import that. It's not picking up. Import alt state. Not dot state, it's vehicle dot model. There we go. What have I done wrong here? Default state, export function, default state, vehicle.model. They're in the same directory. We can see that here. We imported it from vehicle model. Here, it is a function, default state. Does this need to be a function here? I don't think so. And well, yes, I've created one of these. Let's go to our ngrx.io. Inside of here, up to our signal store. Got our states, our initial state. So with state takes a function. It brings things in. Ooh, I actually like this idea here. I actually really like that idea. Because what we're doing up above, so with state takes a function. And I think I'm doing something wrong with my signal store too. Let's go take a look at signal store call. Okay, so it's not an object. I had a couple of things wrong. There we go. I have a rule. Which rule? Parser objects. With no state arrays at root level. So the NGRX with no state arrays at root level requires the parser options dot project. The injection stuff. Can you go through that at some point? Yeah. Let's go through it now. I've got, I'll try and end at like 8 p.m. But for the injection stuff, right? There's a reason that I set this up as a function. And the reason for that is that if I set the default state up as just an object, if somebody mutates that, then they are providing, then they're mutating it for everybody, right? And we're going to try and mitigate some of this through the use of mutative. But what we could do is instead of exporting this, right? What we could do, we could say, hey, our const default state is this, and it's a vehicle, and it equals this, and then we can take this out, right? And what this does to our store is, well, first of all, we don't have default state anymore. But if we used default state, and we modified it somewhere, it's going to mutate even this value, and we don't want that. We want to protect this value from any mutation. And so that's why I typically use functions, because they're factories. Um, NGRX is saying, hey, with state, you can give it state factory as an argument. And so we could say, hey, let's just take a factory and we'll inject the state, which is fascinating. So what we can do, um, and this might be a good time to introduce NG extensions. Maybe we'll look at this tomorrow. NG. Okay, I spelled it wrong. I always get it wrong. Um, I'm always worried that I'm doing it wrong. But so um, Chow helps maintain this library. I actually think he started it, but it's really grown. But within this documentation, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. So utilities, um, injector stuff. So we can do lazy injections for our services and stuff like that. And we'll probably take a look at some of this stuff. Um, but so this create injectable is really cool. Um, so here we could create our own injectable token, and provide that in the providers array. Um, it's possible to do it in a root service. Uh, Create a named service, my service, create injectable. Also, we're creating a function there. Um, there's also create injection token, um, which was created by Chow. But you get these factories, and you can do create injection token here on the count factory. The factory creates what you need, and then you can inject it, right? And when you destructure it, have the inject count, which uses the inject function, and things like that. So I'm curious, and maybe we'll play with this later, but you can even create the token. There's the service factory. But you can even create no-op injection tokens. That's cool. This is providing the function value as is. I really want to dig into this, but I don't want to confuse things too much, right? Um, so if we go take a look, and um, so the other thing they did is they created this injection token that gives us a book state. Factory as the initial state. This is returning the book state that has the initial state. So we can do the same, right? What we can do is we can just say, hey, export a token for me, right? And we can say export const, and here we can say, hey, vehicle info state equals And here we can say this is an injection token. And we need to do a new injection token. New injection token. And this is going to return a vehicle, right? So we're going to tell them that this vehicle. I always make this typo and I always struggle to fix it. And so there's our injection token, right? And then if we go take a look, um, the first argument is, the internal stuff that we tie it to. And then the second argument is, anything we want to use to create that injection token. Um, and so here we can do, this is our vehicle info state. And then inside of here, we can add our factory and just return default state. So what does this do for us? Well, it doesn't solve the issue that I was wanting to solve, but we can solve this, right? Instead of doing this, we can say, hey, function default state. And the reason it doesn't solve the issue is it's still returning the object. And inside of here, we can just do return. Boom. Down here, we add that. So now we're getting our default state again. And here, instead of doing that, we can just say, hey, our factory is our default state. And so now we've created a function that will return this default state. And now people can't modify this. With the factory function before, we were still returning this object. And we may not want, we don't want people to modify that object. The other thing we can do is we can use mutative to freeze this. So we can say, hey, mutative. And I think let's go take a look at mutative. There's a whole bunch of stuff I need to remember. But inside of mutative, we can actually freeze our object. Okay, so let's create. So we can create stuff from a base state and then apply a draft, like a, modifications to it. Which one is it that just gives me raw return, make creator? This is kind of cool because it gives you a custom create function. So I don't want to cast immutable draft, immutable patches patch. No, all I want to do is just freeze the object. Create, apply, current, original, unsafe, Istrada, raw return. Can I just do a freeze on this? Because what I'm looking for is, I just want to make stuff immutable. Oh, I don't even have to pass anything into it. That's right. Um, I they don't have more docs. That's funny. I think all I need to do is just do so inside of here, all I need to do is just do create from mutative. And nope, I'm wrong. What did I do wrong? The base state is that create from the base state a draft. Um, by setting options. So strict, unstrict, I don't know. I just want to, um, I don't want to curry it either. So I think the last thing I need to do is just do a no op on it. Right? We're not going to change it at all. And I don't think it's, I think this is just ESLint. Yeah, it's just saying, hey, you can't have an empty function here. Um, and so what that's done is now if we look at default state, it still returns a vehicle, but that vehicle is now frozen. So if somebody tries to mutate it, they can't. And then what we've done is we've created a factory and created an injection token. And that injection token is very similar to something like window, right? Where you inject window or something like that. So we can say here with state, and we can now just say, hey, um, you know, inject, and here we need to import inject, and then we can say, hey, we want to inject the vehicle info state. Um, and we no longer have default state, so we can just get rid of it. The other thing I want to do is actions on save. Inside of here, we want to optimize imports also. I don't want to rearrange code. I do want to run prettier. Yes, we can apply that. So now it should clean stuff up for us at the top. So now we've got our vehicle info store. It's now going to provide state for us. So now if we go to our vehicle model, if we go to our vehicle component, CSS, we just need to add a providers array for right now. So we're going to say, hey, we're going to provide our vehicle info store. Yep, that's the one. And we probably need to export it. No. Vehicle info. Oh, again, the typo is killing me. We can get rid of that. And now we've got our vehicle info store. And the nice thing about this is we can come down in here and we can say, hey, read only. Um, and we can say protected, right? Read only, and we can say, hey, our store um, equals inject vehicle info store. Um, and so now we're getting the store. Um, and so up here in our template, we can now add our label, right? So we go label, um, and that's fine. We need to import our um, our input directive. There we go. We've now got our mod state input, and this can be our year. Our input type is text. Our placeholder is vehicle year, um, and we'll bind our value. Um, so um, we can say, hey, our ng model equals, and here we can say, hey, it's the store dot year. And to do this, we need to import the forms directive or the forms module. There we go. So now we've got our vehicle model there, right? And that should do it. So now we should get a 2002. No, that's not everything we need to do. In the app component, we no longer import the directive. Instead, we want to import the vehicle info component. And now we can just say, hey, we've got a mod state vehicle info, and we'll make this self-closing, and boom. So now we've got the vehicle info in our page. It built, so we should be able to go and take a look at it. And there we go. We've got our 2002 year, right? And that's all coming from our state. So we can go back to our vehicle info component, and we'll fix that rule up. But here we can just boom, boom, here, make model trim, and one more. So our year, make, model, trim, and where's my model? Year, make, model, trim, VIN, and stock number. So the very first one should actually be our VIN. So this is our VIN, and this is our store.vin. Year is fine. This is our make. Put in our vehicle make, and this becomes our make. And this is our model, and this becomes our vehicle model. And this is our trim. This is the trim level. And we need one more for stock number. Here we can say stock number. And that's fine. And here we just say store.stock number. Boom. And now we've created our form. I mean, there's still some stuff that we need to do to the form, but This is relatively painless for what we're trying to accomplish. There's definitely some stuff that we can do to make this easier in the future, but for now, it's good enough. Um, so on our vehicle model, we've got a year, make, model, trim. We're injecting that into the state. Um, yeah, if we go look at our stuff, here's our form. We've got our VIN, our year, our make, our model, and our trim, and our stock number. Um, so um, one thing I'd like to do before we end is experiment with the label. And this is where the directives become really nice, um, because I'm curious if I do color dash primary and font bold, does this affect anything? Well, I just made everything bold. Inspect this. I want just the label to be bold, but I don't think I can do that. And I think that's the problem with adding text inside. Um, that makes sense. Why it's the way it is. Um, color dash primary should work though. Oh, it's probably font dash primary. Um, so we can take this stuff out. What we want to do is the last thing we'll do, and then I need to end for sure, is I want to go take a look. I think there's a way here to on focus have it like see how it's doing this outline. I don't think ours is doing that, is it? Oh, it is. Um, I actually don't. I don't know. I'm beginning to think I don't like the stuff inside. Um, it actually makes it more difficult to read. Maybe we'll come back to it later. Like this notion of pills here. So like this optional. Um, I don't know. We could make these badges. The other thing we can do is like we can say, hey, on focus, it's now an input dash secondary. And now if we come here and when we focus, not working. Border, focus, inputs, a class. That might be the other thing here. So if we go here to this input, secondary here, input dash secondary. Let's do input dash act. Okay, maybe, yeah, we'll do the input dash accent. We should be able to, this should work. Here's no. Is it the wrong event? Go take a look. This one comes from Tailwind. I need to go take a look at Tailwind, CSS, docs, focus, hover, hover, focus, and yeah, focus class is getting that border. Like with my input, for example, here, see, it's getting this border on password. Focus rings. You can also do group hovers. But sure why my focus accent isn't working here. I wonder, is it's picking up? I think it's picking up the style. Input ordered. If we go to look at our daisy, here it should be getting our color here. Input dash act. If I just take this off, does it? I know they're all good, but if I add the focus back, only when it's focused should they get the input accent. Not getting the focus event, I don't think. Because I think the focus event used to add classes here. Would make that stuff work. Um, am I missing something else from the CSS? Like with the accent color, input bordered, and even if I take that off, it's there. Um, hmm. Like if I do background accent, right, that should work, right? So I focus, no. Oh, it's because it's BG accent, not background, full background. Working either. So if we inspect this, oh. It's because the focus isn't on the label. Focus is here. And we can see that. So what we need to do is it's not just focus that we need. Um, it's um, when we want here, but styling based on styling based on descendants. This is it. Um, yeah, so we do the has, right? We can do has dash focus, I believe. And then we can do our input dash and checked. So I need a colon on focus because I need to use the actual pseudo selector. I can just say has focus. Then we just say it's an input accent, and that should solve it. So, yep. Now when I focus on them, we get the highlight. The only other thing that I would want to do for right now is on our vehicle info component, we've got it set up as block, flex, gap 2, um, and I think we do flex dash call. And that'll set it up as a column and give us still layout. Oh. The display block is coming from the CSS file. No, it's not. The vehicle info component, we took everything out of the CSS. And here we've got the display flex. Is it not flex dash call? Or I the I'm really interested here because I don't know where this display block is coming from. It says it's from here. I don't know why it would think that that file still has that display flex in it. Let's try just shutting things down really quick. And we'll try serving it again so that it just builds everything. So that it picks up that CSS file has been changed. Hey, Indy, shh. And I think this is flex dash column, maybe. Is it not just? If I inspect that, now we definitely don't have the. We still got the display block here. Is it not flex dash column? Is it just column? Is my dog okay? My dog is frustrated that the neighbor came and rang the doorbell. She thinks she's a lot tougher than she is. And I really should probably end and just go make sure she's okay. But yeah, the neighbor came and rang the doorbell. Somebody, the mailman, delivered our mail to our neighbors, which is awesome, right? Very helpful. But thank you for checking on her. It's flex call as I had it before. Okay. I'm not sure. I like, so here's my vehicle info, right? And if we look at the vehicle-info.component.css, and go here, there is nothing in this file. Make sure we save it. And we could do like a dot test and do like a color green. So that recompiles the main.js. And now it's working. That's really weird. If I just set this back to nothing, recompiled that, and now we're not getting that. I don't know. I honestly don't know where that block was coming from because it wasn't there. And let's give it like a grid of 4 or a gap of 4. Just double that gap for a bit. So there we go. Now we've got more space. Our form is starting to come together. Um, I'm really debating whether we should move this stuff out of the form. Um, I think we might move the labels eventually. I don't want to do it right now. Oh, there was one thing that I wanted to do before we got too deep into this, but let's go ahead and commit this. Um, so we added vehicle input to form. Um, and the last thing we want to do, and we'll work on making this pretty. What am I creating? So my downstairs neighbor's chihuahuas. Right, dude, chihuahuas are mean. Um, so we've got two dogs. Our older dog is a Shih and that's a Shih Tzu Chihuahua mix. And the one that you hear barking, she's our puppy. And she is a golden doodle. And everything you see online about golden doodles, they're trolls, they're crazy, right? And our Shih is mean. Like she will, it's that Chihuahua in her. She'll just curl her lips and growl, and she hates things that change in her environment. So dude, I'm sorry you got bit by the Chihuahuas. We're trying to train Indy not to bark. The problem is that she really looks up to our older dog, and our older dog barks. And so, oh yeah, you gotta come say hi. Come here. Come say hi. They're coming. They're talking about you. Come here. Come here. Yeah. Hi. Come here. Are you feeding her? No. Oh, she wants ice cream. Oh, oh, hey. Oh, you got here. Oh, she's trying to go. But this is her. This is Indy, the one who's barking. I want to see you. She's out. She wants to go eat ice cream. Their dog had a child a couple weeks back. Oh yeah, yeah. Animals with babies are they're neat. Let's do one last thing, and then I really have to end. But I just want to make sure. So we've gone a little bit over tonight, but I want to answer your question, Furna Sigma, and thank you for showing up and for asking questions and stuff. Um, those golden doodles, they love you, man. Like she is the sweetest dog alive. She will yell and scream at the top of her lungs, and we're trying to help break her of that. But our older dog is just grumpy and barks and set in her ways. And it would be more mean to try and break her of it than just put up with the fact that she barks. Unfortunately, she's teaching the puppy that she barks. And so we're trying to help the puppy understand. Yeah, Allie, our older dog, she barks, but you don't need to bark. Um, and she doesn't quite get it. So, but she's a lover. Like you could be breaking into our house and she would just be there. She would be barking at you the whole time, but she's barking at you for attention. She'll be jumping up on you trying to get attention. She'd lick your face and she would just love you the entire time you've broken into my house. Um, so neither of my dogs are for protection or anything like that. They're just part of the family, and we love them to death. But one last thing I want to do um, is let's go to the app config. And inside of here, we're providing zone change detection. We don't want that. So let's go with the experimental zoneless change detection. And that's going to make some changes, right? But we haven't actually gotten rid of Zone.js yet. We haven't gotten rid of zones. We're still running in zones. We can tell that if we grab this zone right here, um, you can see that that's defined. So we're still in a zone implementation. The other thing we have to do, and now you can hear my older dog, she's barking too. But in our polyfills here, we remove references to Zone.js. And So these are all in our lock files. That may have been everything we need to do. Um, so now we're completely zoneless. Um, in older versions of Angular, you may have to go into the polyfills file and remove it there, any reference to zone.js. But we can verify if we removed it by, again, looking for zone, and it is, oops, still there. Why? Oh, the reason it's still there is that project.json is a config file, and those changes aren't picked up unless you restart the compiler. We have a retriever and a parrot. When I was a kid, they gelled pretty well, dude. Retrievers, uh, retrievers are amazing pets. My parents had a golden retriever that they called Buddy. They got him after I moved out. He was my youngest brother's like dog. They were best friends. Buddy lived to be about 18, and then his joints just got to hurt so much, and he was in so much pain. And then he got lots of things happened, right? I don't want to make everybody sad, um, but retrievers are amazing. The take care of their joints, though. Those poor dogs when they get old. And retrievers are very much like golden doodles, right? Like golden doodles part retriever. Retrievers just love everybody, right? Unless trained otherwise, like natural temperament for a retriever is just to love everybody. So that sounds awesome, Arno Sigma. Amazing. Yeah, let's see. Did we succeed this time by restarting? And yep. So now we no longer have zone. Um, and in fact, if I enter it, it's no longer there. But we're still getting change detection and stuff that we expect. Um, so we'll be able to test that out later. But we've at least got a simple form that we can throw into more complicated forms and get more information. The next thing we'll build is just like a quick and simple, like a dirty equipment form. Um, and then we can look at how can we, throw these together um, and maybe we'll add some information about, if we're doing this for like an auction, maybe we'll add some information about dealerships and things like that to it, and start throwing these forms together and then showing how we can put them together, um, in maybe like a wizard type flow or throw them together in different forms or things like that. And then where do we put the state, right? Um, so we'll get back to that on Saturday. I was going to say tomorrow, but tomorrow's Friday. Um, my week is so messed up. The stuff I've been doing for work has been extremely rewarding, but it's also tough, and it eats up a lot of my mental capacity in my day, and like I lose track of days sometimes too. But thank you guys. Used to be the coolest boy ever. Passed away like 15 years ago. So yeah, and that's like if you want to go easy mode with dogs, get yourself a retriever. They're big dogs, right? So things to realize about dogs, they need to move and get around, right? But like easy mode for dogs are retrievers. Retrievers are super smart, so they're easy to train, right? So you can potty train them pretty easily. You can train them to use dog doors pretty easily. Um, like our golden retriever like our doodle is just so smart that like if we grab the leash, she goes and grabs her harness and she's ready to go on a walk, right? um, just incredibly smart dogs, just very loving. And we bought her already potty trained and already trained to use a doggy door at like, how old was she? She was like 12 months old, or not 12 months, 12 weeks old, I think. Um, So she was trained from really, really tiny. Like by the time she was in our house, she was already potty trained and she knew how to use the doggy door. It was cute because she was like this big, tiny little dog. and she would walk up to that dog door, she would smack it with her paw and then push through it, and it's the cutest thing ever. That knowledge though, now she knows how to get through doors and gates and stuff like that. She knows if she hits a door on the right part and pushes, she's going to get through it. So um love it. We had a courtyard back then. Yeah. And that's like our backyard is completely fenced in. We've got a door. They can go in and out. This time of year is tough. So we've got shade and water and stuff outside. But the cement gets hot and can burn their pads. And so we're really careful with like how much time we let them have outside. But dogs are amazing, and they just become part of the family. But thank you for being here, Furnace Sigma. We're going to be back on Saturday. I'll let you guys know when we come back, but we're going to keep building this, and we're going to start looking at the state itself. How do we get the state from where it is now to higher levels? And once we move like the state to a higher level, how do we modify it, and how do we kick off events at the higher level and things like that. I may not, like, I hate that I did this, but I may not change it. I don't like the fact that it's difficult to tell what's what. um, but that's on me. We'll clean that up later. Yeah, thanks for the dog related chat. I'm glad I made your day better. I like I love programming, but the programming is more ways to just talk about different things, right? So thanks for coming and hanging out. I love it. I'm happy to show my dogs. Um, I have to be careful about the rest of my family. There's like you know you got to be careful about what you show on stream and things like that. So I've got two daughters, and so I don't typically. They'll show up every once in a while, but not very often. And my wife, she doesn't like to be on stream, so you might see her hand here or there. But and those dogs, I love them to death. And Indy, the doodle, she'll come and she'll sit right at my feet while I'm streaming and stuff. But yeah, thank you. We'll see everybody Saturday. I definitely need to work on this more. So Saturday, Sunday, and Monday we'll be working on this. Um, The Saturday after, I don't know what's happening yet. Um, so I'll give you some more feedback on Monday when I know what's going on with work. Um, I may have to do some traveling. So, but I'm not certain yet. Um, if I do, I'm excited about it and I want to contact some people. But yeah, thank you guys. Have a